Good evening, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, I'm David Valois. I'm Emperor 35 of the Imperial Court of Toronto.
And don't correct your eyes. I'm Rachelle Valois, Empress 35 of the Imperial Court of Toronto.
And why are you not in drag tonight?
We decided to put tonight's show more in a focus on our charities and what they're about. So tonight's show is not about a drag queen. It's about our charities and the great work they do and why we've chosen them. So we wanted the focus to be on them and not on us.
Absolutely. So we are going to have members of both our charities here tonight to talk a little bit about what they do, who they are, the good work that they do in the community and internationally. So please, I hope you all enjoy it. We usually start with a land acknowledgement, so I'll get going on that right away, and then we'll bring in our guests.
Yes.
So many of us are joining tonight from lands across North America. As people watch this afterwards, it gets watched actually from around the world. So for those around the world and people here that don't know it, North America is known as Turtle Island to the Indigenous communities in North America. We are currently situated in Toronto. Our guests are not. Some of them are actually quite far north, so they'll talk about that a little bit. And as such, we would like to begin today to acknowledge that the land we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and many other Wendat peoples and diverse First Nations, Métis and Inuit peoples. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed by the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed by multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. And it's always very important for us to acknowledge the lands that we are on and the First Nations in this wonderful world and wonderful country that we are all living in.
Yes.
Okay, so do you want to bring in our first guest?
Sure, I'll bring in our first guest. From Toronto PWA, we have Anthony Johnson, the Director of Development for PWA Toronto. Anthony has been a volunteer in the HIV sector for over 2 decades and has recently joined the PWA to take on a role of fundraising. He brings his passion of work because HIV is such a personal cause to him. So welcome to our live stream, Anthony.
Hi, David and Rachelle. Thank you so much for having me.
It must be weird not calling a man Rachelle, isn't it?
Oh, it's more seeing Rachelle outside of drag. It's a whole new experience for me. I'm really, really pleased to be here this evening. This is great. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Yes, and many people don't know this, but our organizations have a very long history together.
Indeed.
We started the same year.
The very same year. That's right. PWA was founded in '87 by 3 gay men who were living with AIDS at the time. There were very few treatments, if any, in the mid to late '80s. And so they lived with full-blown AIDS. They decided to get together to start helping the community because for people who weren't around in the '80s, it was a terrible time to have HIV and to have AIDS. Governments were indifferent to the crisis and to the people suffering from it. There was a lot of stigmatization. There was a lot of homophobia. And so because of that, the community really had to come together to take care of its own. And that's very much what PWA is about. And then TICOT was founded in the same year as well, and started putting on these amazing events, fundraising and giving funds raised to PWA. So together we've had a very long history of working together. It's something that, at PWA, we're immensely proud of the relationship we've had with TICOT. And we are so thrilled to have been charity of choice for so many years.
Yeah, and we're thrilled to have you as a charity. I mean, you've been PWA has been the charity of choice for TICOT for every year in our existence. We have had other charities. This year we have a second one, and we'll bring them in a minute. But yes, it's been a long period of time that we've been sort of partners in supporting the community. It's interesting when you're talking about the 80s. Now I'm old enough to remember the 80s but yes, it's a whole generation, multiple generations now that have no real frame of reference of what it was like back then. We watched a movie not too long ago, It's a Sin, with Alexander. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I have. Yeah.
Very, very impactful movie. I was crying all the way through it. But it just brought those memories back, which was, bad and good at the same time. Because we have to remember what it was like, and we have to sort of look at that and say, we are in such a better place today than we were back then. So
absolutely, I think one of the big changes in the story has been the new treatments. The antiretrovirals, which came out in the early to mid 90s, revolutionized the way treatment was happening. There were people who were on their deathbed, and the antiretrovirals were approved. And sort of 3 months later, they're going around town looking for an apartment. It was an absolute miracle. And so that did change everything. It changed also the perception of HIV in the public. It became less of an urgent present worry, and sort of began to recede into the background for a lot of people. And so you just didn't hear the same kinds of prejudice and stigma, but it was still going on, and it's still going on today. And I think that's one of the things that's been so insidious about HIV and the way that it has changed over the years, is that the stigma is still there, both within the gay community, within the general community, that these are things that prevent people from accessing these treatments, or maintaining the treatments and that kind of thing. And that by sort of isolating or undermining people who are living with HIV, we contribute to harm. And so that the fact that we do have this medical option now is not necessarily there for everyone, simply because they don't feel confident in themselves to be able to reach out and ask for the help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So before we go much further with that, Anthony, you certainly want to continue the conversation. I think let's bring in the dog.
Bring the dog.
The director is on the line.
Sorry about that. So our other charity choices, Rainbow Railroad. If you don't know who they are, you should definitely be looking into them. But I'll let our guest talk more about them. So it's Brittany Scarrett. Sorry if I butchered your last name. She's the development officer of community and giving. Brittany is a fundraising professional in the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe peoples, also known as Ottawa. With over 4 years' experience with nonprofits in women's and LGBTQ+ rights sector, Brittany has dedicated her career to positive impact on bringing communities together and advocate for change. Welcome to the show, Brittany.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
And we did say your last name correctly.
You did, Scarrett. Got it.
Okay, well, welcome, Brittany. So yes, here are our two charities on the screen. We've got PWA and we've got Rainbow Railroad. And I always have to say that slowly because that's a bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah, trust me. All the time. Really got to think about it.
Yeah. So why don't you give us a quick little 30-second blurb on Rainbow Railroad and what it is and how long it's been around?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So we started in 2006 as just a bunch of volunteers who had been watching the news and seeing how queer folks have been particularly affected by world events where it comes to like crises around the world, or just LGBTQ plus crackdowns, like state-enabled violence. And since then, we've really blown up to be like a nonprofit, both in the United States and in Canada, though most of us are in Canada. Our head offices are in Toronto. And pretty much like our mission, what we do, our bread and butter is helping LGBTQI plus people facing persecution based on their sexuality, their gender identity, and sex characteristics. For the most part, our core programming is around emergency travel support, so taking folks out of really dangerous situations, wherever they're from, their home, into a safer place in a different country through different modes of transportation. But we also have a couple other programs that complement our emergency travel support, which are things like direct livelihood supports that could be like financial aid for folks to escape dangerous situations within their home. A lot of folks can become homeless. So we try to support people through that if they want to stay within their country. We do other things like responding to crackdowns, like what we've seen in Afghanistan, helping people out of those situations. Partnership development, so working with partners and organizations on the ground who know the work well, since they're from those places, and then other programs like private sponsorship of refugees in Canada specifically, and we actually have quite a few of those folks refugees in Toronto. So we help support them, and we really work like all over the world. We help folks anywhere from like the Caribbean, which is a big portion. I think it's about 50% of the people that we help are from the Caribbean, but also in Europe, in the Middle East, in parts of Asia, and of course like East Africa and other places like that.
And how long has Rainbow Railroad been doing this work?
2006.
Since 2006.
6.
Like 16 years, something like that.
Wow.
A long time. Yeah.
16, that's a long time.
Right.
Wow, wonderful. We picked Rainbow Railroad as a charity of choice for TICOT. Was it 3 years ago, 4 years ago? The first time?
3 years? 3 years ago, yeah.
3 years ago,
Yeah.
yeah. So we've got a short working relationship together, but we certainly appreciate everything you do, and certainly what we'll see how this year goes.
And also in Reign 33, we dedicated all the funds we raised in the month of June because of the amplified issues that were happening with Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. We really wanted to pick a charity that would go towards that community. I think we raised close to 5,000 that 1 month, which is like a lot for 1 month.
Yeah.
And it was all through live streams. It was this platform in Reign 33 was basically how we raised all of our money. So it was a very proud year for me in particular, because this is kind of my baby.
Yeah, he started it. She started it in March 2020.
March 2020.
Yeah. So live streams have been going ever since then. Well, we were talking about it the other day. I'm surprised that we actually never had you on any of our shows. We've been doing this now for 2 years. Actually, what's the date today? It's the 12th. So 4 days from today is when the first day I came home and didn't go to work again. So yeah, we've been doing this for 2 years, and this is the first time we have you with us. So welcome, and we're certainly looking forward to conversation tonight. Now, Anthony, you brought a guest that you wanted to.
Yes, I'm really pleased to be introducing to all of you and as well everyone out there. We're going to be joined by a community member of PWA who has an amazing story to share about their journey through life and the way in which PWA was helpful to them. So if you would join me, please, in welcoming Pedro Sherhouse.
There you go.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Pedro. Welcome. Now, you're way up north, correct?
I am way up north.
Where are you joining us from?
I am right now in Sault Ste. Marie, which is just 8 hours northeast of Toronto.
And how deep is the snow there?
Oh my gosh. So much snow.
Okay, so we're really looking forward to hearing your story as well. Just wanted to welcome some people that are putting in notes. We've got Earl Kaufman, Tanya King. Tanya is our Imperial Crown Princess for this reign. Tanya, she's out in Ottawa, correct?
She's in Ottawa, yes.
Yeah. So welcome. Good evening, Tanya. And Chantal, is it Chantal Burke? Hi, Chantal. Happy to see you.
She's from the Waterfall Empire.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, perfect. So good evening. Hello, everybody. Anthony, let's talk a little bit about
Pedro's story. That's why we brought him on.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, let's talk a little bit about the kind of stuff the PWA does and how it helps the community. In which case, Anthony, please.
And I think that, and I think Rachelle was giving you some direction there. That yes, and that'll lead in very nicely to Pedro's story, I think. So we're very much an agency that focuses and always has done on direct help. So whether that's food through our essentials market, whether it's peer support, whether it is navigating the healthcare system, as well as help with, sometimes you need help with the translation, because new Canadians coming to Canada take an HIV test, obviously, as part of immigration procedures. So that can be the first time they find out that they're HIV positive. And so they need quick access to healthcare, which of course you don't get as an immigrant for the first 3 months. And your first language, your spoken languages may not include English or French. So being able to find people who can speak your language and help you get through the healthcare system, especially in those crucial first few months when you don't have your healthcare card. So these are all the types of things that we're working on. We also have personal services like haircuts, acupuncture, haircuts, massotherapy, these kinds of things. So a lot of things to just help, center yourself, take care of yourself, all of these things, because all of this adds to the ability to then stay well, healthy, take your medication, and continue to live, a full and healthy life. So I think that would be a great time to hand it over to Pedro. If you wanted to talk, Pedro, a little bit about your experiences.
Of course. Thank you, Anthony. So my story with PWA started back in 2014. I'm from Brazil. I'm originally from Brazil, from Rio de Janeiro. And I was there and I was getting ready to go through a surgery. And suddenly I received a phone call from the lab asking me how many times have I tested positive for AIDS. And that was quite shocking to hear it over the phone, as it was my first time testing positive for HIV. After that shock period passed, I remember having that shower that I thought it would be, my last shower. A couple months passed, and I then made a decision to come back to Canada, where I thought stigma would be easier to bear if compared to Brazil. When arriving in the beautiful city of Toronto, the first place I went to look to search for help was PWA. And PWA gave me grounds to continue my journey. I was able to find safety. I found guidance from my caseworker, Mr. Rajesh, who helped me organize my life going forward. I also found volunteer work, meaningful volunteer work, with Chris, who is the therapeutic care coordinator at PWA. And they helped me getting customer service experience and Canadian experience, which is something really important for us immigrating from a different country to Canada. From there, PWA also gave me a family. Yeah, PWA gave me who I now call my husband, and it's been my partner for 6 years, and we've been married now for 3 years. From there, I went to embark on different professional challenges, thanks to the skill and experiences that I was able to acquire at PWA. At some point, I could just feel it in my body and in my soul that PWA was calling me back. And it was calling me back to, give it back to the community who's done so much for me when I arrived. Went back to PWA. I once again volunteered my time, and a new journey as a staff member began. A journey of internal growth, lots of internal growth, especially with our anti-Black and anti-Indigenous racism work, and professionally with the support of my team members, PWA's dedicated team of volunteers and peers and all of our community. It is an honor for me to be here tonight sharing my story with all of you. And this is my way of saying thank you. Thank you to all of you who have donated your time, your skills, your money, so that people like me, people living with HIV and all that comes with HIV, so that we could have safety, resilience, and purpose. Thank you, merci, and obrigado.
Thank you for that, Pedro. That is an impactful story. I think we don't always realize how fortunate we are living in Canada. and yes, there's still stigma and stuff here in Canada, but there are parts of the world that it is a lot worse. And I'm sure Brittany, you're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. We are very fortunate to be in Canada, and we are very fortunate to have organizations like PWA and Rainbow Railroad that are so ingrained in the community and help people in community. Pedro, you were talking a little bit about the volunteering work that you did. And then you said you're now on staff at PWA, so that's a great journey. Anthony, when we were reading your intro, you were volunteering as well, and then you staff as well. So it seems like there's a path here.
Well, definitely for me, I was volunteering at several different HIV agencies. I'm from Montreal, so it was down there that I was doing a lot of my volunteer work. But it was just as something I was very passionate about, and like Pedro, I wanted to give back to the community, and so thought that was a really great way. And then when I got the opportunity to actually work, I jumped at it. So yeah, it's been a very lucky, very happy career path for me.
Wonderful. And Pedro, what kind of volunteering were you doing when you were at PWA before you joined? Talk a little bit about the what because there might be people listening that might be interested in volunteering. So
I've done quite a lot of volunteer work with PWA. I started with the therapeutic care program, which is the one that really kind of helped me get my career started here in Canada, because as a therapeutic care volunteer, I would be answering phone calls and giving people phone calls to talk about their appointments. So from there, I was able to, not only get my English to, a better level of also understanding different accents, because I had a variety of people calling me on the phone. And for someone who's learning, it can be quite difficult, especially on the phone. So having that experience for me, it brought a richness to my professional life. And one other volunteer work that I also done at PWA that has brought me a lot was working at the Essentials Market, volunteering at the Essentials Market. And it's just, it's the type of work that just, it pays it off with the pleasure of seeing people coming in and out, and they come in with a request and they come out with a smile because they got what they were looking for. So, it's very rich in work, and I just love doing it.
We'll get back to that in a second. I actually want to talk a little bit about how during the pandemic things have either impacted or things have changed. But I want to come back to you, Brittany. Talk to us a little bit about what's happening in the world and the kind of things that Rainbow Railroad is being pulled in to help with.
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of crisis response. So, of course, the big one that happened last year in August was the fall of Afghanistan and the Taliban taking over. And we saw in that situation, LGBTQI people were specifically pointed out and were on kill lists because, of course, they're not welcome within that country. So it was a bit of a scramble, to be honest. I don't know if everyone remembers what happened in August. Everything happened really quickly. It was really difficult to get out of the country. Sending money wasn't really an option. So we really jumped on our chance to get folks out of the country and trying to help them as much as possible. So I believe since August, we have moved over 100 people outside or from Afghanistan over to countries where they're safe, which we're so happy to do so. And we're seeing so many more folks request help. I think we have a backlog of a couple of hundred people who we're still really trying to get out. And we don't expect that to stop anytime soon. And with that, it has been a struggle to get people out of the country. So we're doing a lot of advocating for more or safe pathways for people to get into different countries. It's really complicated. The refugee and immigration processes in most countries is really lengthy. And these people don't have that kind of time. These people are actively running away from the Taliban, or their families are tracking them down and turning them in. Like their lives are at stake right now, and they don't have the time to wait on a list to immigrate to Canada or the UK or the US and stuff like that. So that's a lot of the work that we're doing right now. What's interesting about Afghanistan too is prior to this, we hadn't really received a lot of requests for help from Afghanistan. And all of a sudden, of course, in August, that just skyrocketed. I think it like quadrupled the original amount that we used to have for people in Afghanistan. So yeah, we're doing a lot of work there, and that will continue. It won't go away anytime soon. And then, of course, with everything that's going on in Ukraine right now, we are keeping an eye on that too. So right now we have begun some work in Ukraine. Primarily, we're helping to work like directly with partners on the ground. And have received like several dozen or so requests from the region, and also from Russia as well. Because we can't forget that Russia is also very anti-LGBTQ. And they're also, of course, in a tough spot in that they're pretty much cut off from the rest of the world right now. So sending them funds to leave dangerous situations is difficult.
Yeah, I see that.
Like with Swift thing being blocked, like they're cut off from the rest of the world. So we're trying to figure out and navigate how we can help those folks. And of course, Ukrainians as well. So the response right now is kind of threefold. Right now, we are liaisoning with global and regional partners to ensure we move in a coordinated way for the response. And then we're also coordinating and setting up how to get financial assistance to those partners on the ground through our various connections. And then we're also trying to respond to urgent requests from folks. Primarily the people who are reaching out to us are trans. So we know right now, men between, I think, the ages of 16 and 60 or something like that can't leave the country. They have to serve in the military. So for trans women, particularly who maybe don't have their ID changed to their gender, they're still being perceived as cis men. And so they're in a particular place of vulnerability. You can only imagine what would happen if they were captured by the Russians, who we know do not treat queer people well. And also, of course, just being in a place of violence is not a good situation with them. And even the same thing with trans men, if they're trying to cross borders, it'd be really confusing for border agents to let them into the country. And they might be a back and forth about who they actually are. And they might be rejected to get into countries and while they're fleeing. And then we're also seeing a lot of folks going into Poland specifically, which isn't a safe place for queer people. They've been actively anti-LGBTQ. They even have neighborhoods that are queer free, queer people aren't allowed to be in there. Yeah, it's a bad situation to begin with. So we're working with partners to try to get folks into better situations, trying to get funds so that they can, live their lives and survive for now, and try to regroup later and figure out what a new life looks like.
Wow. I just want to take a breath after that. It's
a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's heavy. I'll say what I said before. We don't know how lucky we are. We don't actually realize how lucky we are living in a country like Canada.
Yeah.
And frankly, just south of the border, there's a lot of anti-gay and anti-trans legislation and political, ideologically driven stuff happening that I don't know. I mean, maybe you can comment on this, Brittany, if we're getting people moving from the US, maybe not, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's another area where things will in time need your help.
Yeah, we know that people are we have gotten requests for help from people in the United States. Right now, we're not set up to help people from the US. It's more internationally based. But isn't it crazy that we're getting requests from folks from just south of the border who I think we all think how to live a relatively good life to what we have in Canada. But yeah, they are also in a very tough spot. So it also goes to show that we have a lot of work to do in North America as well.
Yeah. And just another way of emphasizing that, people, these are our charities. These are the people that, the events we go to, the donations you make, every cent you donate goes to
Every dollar helps. Yeah.
these two organizations,
Yeah.
and has as you can hear from Pedro and as you can hear from Brittany, a real life impact to the people. And that's, one of the reasons why we are involved in the organization. We started with TICOT 5 years ago, and
Can I tell the story?
yeah, you can tell the story. Go for it.
He's talking too much. I gotta cut him off so I can. I should actually have a voice on the show. So it was about 6 years ago. We were kind of on our personal journey of like, we felt this desire to start to give back to community, and we were looking for a way in which to do that, and which made sense for us, because we've reached a point in our lives where we're financially stable, our careers are our careers our careers are stable. And I just happened to be at Woody's and saw at the time it was Jason the Just, which was Emperor 30. He was campaigning to become emperor. So TICOT's been around. We're reigned 35. We're 35 years. I've been in Toronto for 25 years, and 6 years was the first time I ever heard of Toronto.
No,
TICOT, the Imperial Court of Toronto. That's another reason we're doing these live streams, because it's getting our name out in a platform that we haven't before. And then when I met them and I started doing research on what they're doing and saw their huge history and the history of the international system. So it started in San Francisco during the AIDS pandemic. And it started in San Francisco, and it kind of spread up the west coast of North America, and then slowly went across the continents, skipped the middle for some reason, and then landed on the East Coast. So some courts are celebrating their 55th and 60th anniversary. Our mother court, which is in Vancouver, is celebrating their 50th this year. So it's got a long history. And if you were
tonight,
actually, Vancouver's coronation is tonight, so they're celebrating their 50th. So if you figure of and there's over 70 chapters across North America. So we have some in Mexico, clearly in the States and Canada. So if you're like total the amount of funds raised from all these different chapters to all these communities, it's amazing what we're doing and what these people have done and dedicated years. And we joined and caught the bug, and it's a great community. It's a new family that I never thought that aspect would come from it. It's a great family that you develop, and yes, we're having fun. We have our crowns and our jewelry and our big events, but at the end of the day, it's all for raising money. And to be in a room with a bunch of like-minded people that are all there to raise money for the communities and help the communities, it's such a warm feeling.
Yeah, it was.
And
just talking about the international court system for a minute, we had the privilege of going to Connecticut about 4 weeks ago now, for their coronation. It was our first out of country coronation as reigning emperor and empress, and there were 230 or so people attending that particular coronation from New York, Washington, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and different parts. And the person we spent a lot of time with is the Emperor of New York, TICOT. And he was at
Stonewall.
Wow. And he works at that.
He still works at the Stonewall bar.
Yeah. So just and it was just amazing to sit around the table and interact with people that have that history. That just made it feel so much more impactful of being part of this organization, the international court system, TICOT as the court, and then obviously, the community we serve and yourselves. So let's just say hello. So we do to a couple of people that have joined us.
Kiros, he's a longtime supporter of our live streams. Actually had the pleasure of actually meeting him recently in public because of being closed for the pandemic. We have all these, like, our fans, I would call them, but the people that would tune in every year, every show, and we know them by their digital name. So it's been great to actually be in the community and actually meet some of these people. Although some of the people that are watching are from, like, we got like international viewers. We get people from Europe, we get people all over the world tuning in. So it's nice to finally meet some of the people that have, donated, watched, and yeah.
Let's keep on going. James Glob, Lord James, where pop one of his messages on. Yeah, there you go. James Glob, Lord James, one of our performers. He's a live performer. He always brings his stand and his music and stuff, and he's out at our shows. So please come out to our shows. You'll likely see James perform.
He's also an amazing hat fabricator. He has the most amazing hats that he hand makes all of them himself.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. We also have Ricky Lake, Ontario, past emperor or current treasurer, who's watching with us.
Crystal Carter.
Crystal Cartier.
Carter.
I'm French, so we'll give it a French twist.
There you go. That's everybody that's saying hi at this point. Rachel Blinky.
Oh, yeah? She's from the Imperial Court of London. I think they're rebranding to the Forest Empire. But it's London, the Imperial Court of London in southwestern Ontario. They have a long court name. That's
Royal Imperial Court of London and southwestern Ontario, I think, is the full title of it.
That's why they're shorting down to the Forest Empire.
So little inside court joke here. London Court is known for their titles and the length of their titles. So whenever London comes to a coronation, you set aside an extra 5 or 10 minutes just to go through. And Billy King Reynolds, there we go. So there you go. Hi, Billy. So that's it, just in terms of people that made some comments. So Anthony Pedro, quick question back to you. The pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
What was the last 2 years like in terms of being able to serve the community?
So obviously it was incredibly challenging. The pandemic started almost 2 years to the day, the announcement we would all be working from home. And so at that moment, a decision was taken at PWA that we were, unless forced to by government order, we were going to keep our doors open. And so we've been open the entire time. We recognized a couple of things. That number one, people who are immunocompromised are going to be much more worried about going out when there's a respiratory illness out there. So people stopped using our services, and that meant that we had to create a whole new approach of reaching out, which we hadn't been doing before, but reaching out to people on the phone, just checking in with them. Peers would call to see what was happening. And so just keeping in touch with the community that way, making sure that, if they needed food delivered, we could do that from the essentials market. So we also recognized that we needed to up the number of times people were able to access the essentials market. It had been twice a month. We upped it to every week. Which is something that we're committed to continuing as we come out of the pandemic, because we recognize this is actually really a need. I think, like so many organizations, what we noticed in the pandemic is we had a lot of ways of doing things, but and we didn't sort of experiment or change or anything. The pandemic did give us this chance to try everything new. So we've a lot of these different approaches we're going to be keeping, and I think they've been really successful in helping to keep the community members connected with the services that they need, with each other, making sure that even though, you might be isolating at home, which for the first part, if you remember in the first part of the pandemic, there's a lot of sitting at home alone, very isolating, that in fact, there were still people out there. We loved you, we cared for you, you're still part of the community and that kind of thing. And so making sure that that's still connected. So that was really part of the important work. Petra, I'll throw it over to you to add in other COVID work we were doing.
So one other COVID work that we were doing, in adding on to what Anthony was talking about, the connecting the community, right? Besides the folks who could not leave their home for whatever reason, we also had folks who, And when I heard about it, I was shook. And I'm from Brazil, that not everyone in Canada has internet connection or access to computer or access to phones. And our community was seeing that. So one of the things that we did in order to keep in touch with our community and to our community to be in touch with us and to the services they need was also providing access to computers and phones and internet. So that not only they were, already isolated, but now not so much because, the internet is a different world. Look at us here. We all in our own homes and we're together in the same room. So we were able to bring that as well to our community, which was, in my point of view, quite fantastic, quite amazing.
That's another thing we noticed with our organization is a lot of our members are seniors, and they may have internet and cell phones, but don't really understand the technology or how to use it. Yeah. So
they're not digital natives.
They're not digital specialists. So it was so a lot of cases we had like people safely go into their homes and helping them at least be able to watch the shows so that they still felt connected and part of the community. That was another thing that we kind of struggled with our group, is to interact with them somehow. Because before with our social events, they were live and in person. We even have one member who calls all of our senior members because they don't get Facebook. They don't have the other ways we communicate. So we had a member that actually personally calls some of our members to inform them about events and where to go and how to get there and arrange rides and stuff like that. So
that's excellent. We saw a real rise in the number of older and over 65, over 70 years of age, a real rise in the number of people using our services during the pandemic as well. And so what changed a lot, obviously, is immigration stopped. And we have a lot of people arriving in Canada who start off by using our services as they arrive. So that kind of stopped, but it did not reduce the number of people we served because the pandemic caused a lot of other people to fall through the cracks. And so we were very lucky to be able to help them as well. So again, as we're moving forward, we're not sure what the future holds. We know we're going to be more needed than we were, and that thanks to donors who give to TICOT and to TICOT who gives to us, we're going to be able to meet these demands. But we're definitely seeing an evolution in who's coming through the doors and what kind of services they need.
Brittany, that's actually a good segue over to you. Pandemic with immigration stopping, etc. How did that impact your organization?
Yeah, I mean, usually every year we have about 10 slots of a private sponsorship program that we have with the Canadian government. And I think we got one person into Canada last year. So it's been really, really difficult. And even just besides the immigration and refugee status aspect of it, like we saw a lot of folks that we've supported, like being impacted in a lot of different ways in their home countries. So we had a lot of cases of like trans folks not able to like access hormone therapy because of course like healthcare systems are just like it's COVID or they're going to treat COVID and nothing else at that point, right? So yeah, no hormone therapy, no gender affirming care. Even folks who are HIV positive in countries are not able to get their medication. And even cases of queer folks being accused of spreading the virus. So yeah, queer folks has been really affected in a lot of, I don't want to say interesting ways, but different ways than like your average person. So it's been difficult, but at the same time, I've been super impressed with our team on how many people we've been able to support. So even like last year, we were able to support, or we got 5,400 requests for helps from about 7,000 individuals. And that surpassed our annual goal. I think our annual goal was we would help, I think, just over 500 people. And in the end, we helped, oh gosh, how much is it now? We helped 1,800 in the end.
Wow.
In 2021. So even we have some very Thanks. Thank you. We have a really, really passionate team. And even, we had the small goal of 545. And we got 1,800. But of course, we wouldn't be able to do that without our supporters like you folks. We need the funds to be able to do it. And we've been really, really fortunate to have fantastic supporters to really show out and support some folks in need. So it's been challenging, but we have done so well in navigating it. We hope to continue along those lines this year. We're expecting to, I think, hit about 10,000 requests for helps this year, which is the most that we've ever had in our history. We still have to navigate COVID stuff. A lot of countries in the global south don't have enough vaccines to go around, and you can't enter the country unless you're vaccinated. So in those ways, the mandate has kind of worked against our work. But still, we're finding ways to navigate it and get people to safety as best as we can.
Yeah, I suppose it's easy for us to forget here that, yes, in Canada, we're getting to the endemic stage. Vaccine mandates and certificates and all that kind of stuff is sort of being relaxed. There's parts of the world that they haven't even got their vaccinations yet, which certainly has a big impact for sure.
And while we're on the topic of funds helping these organizations, I just put up the ticker tape. So we are accepting donations for this during the show. So if you're within Canada, you can send an e-transfer to treasure@ticot.ca. If you're an international watcher, you can go to our website at TICOT.ca and hit the donate button, and these funds will be directly donated to our charities at the end of the year. Sometimes our charities do a push for fundraising, and I know in the past, the Imperial Court of Toronto has helped out PWA when they've done a funds push, and we've been able to cut a check earlier than we normally would. So as we said, and it's kind of like the court motto, every dollar helps. So if you have the ability to donate to our show tonight and to our charities, please do so.
Yes, please do. Brittany, you had sent us a video that you wanted us to show. Is this a good time to show it?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So it's a video of two women that we supported. They're from Barbados. And it's just a little taste of what it's like to go through the process of leaving your home country, what it's like, what the reality is for folks living in danger. And the result of moving to a country where they're able to be themselves and live their best life and explore themselves in ways that they weren't able to back home. So I hope you enjoy it. Go ahead.
I am the talkative one. I'm the one that goes forward and talks. She always stays in the back. Yeah, she's the quiet one.
I can cook.
I was just going to say that.
Because she doesn't cook at all, so I'm the cook.
My sister in our country, she never smiled like that because I think this was literally the next day after she got off the plane.
Yeah, but it's I finally felt like me, who I really am,
Where we're from, we can't.
Yeah, it's
queer isn't a thing.
I had to hide a lot, and it was one of the most suffocating things I could ever go through in my life.
I feared that she would give up on life because I had given up on life.
In my work with Kina and Sanchia, what I heard was someone who actually gave up. But to reach out to an organization that she has no connection with, no formal connection, anything, responded in a way that we did meant so much for her. To see someone just being told to say, we got you, and we're going to help, she believed that in its entirety.
I feel safe with this community that Rainbow Railroad offers me. That's how I felt when I first got in contact with Rainbow Railroad through the entire journey.
It's a lifeline. Every dollar that we get adds to that lifeline. To know that you could significantly change a course for one person, one that is free from violence, from hate, and it creates a better world for us.
Rainbow Railroad was like that opening for me. It's like, yeah, there's hope for you. There's hope for other people like you. You're not alone.
Wow.
Got you there, Anthony.
You praying yet?
Now everybody knows you wear glasses. So that was powerful. That was very powerful. And I think the thing that for me was it's such an eye-opening event or experience was 3 years ago when we had chosen Rainbow Railroad for our charity of choice that year for the first time. When we did the check presentation at the end of the year, well, actually at the beginning of the following year, somebody from Rainbow Railroad obviously came to get the check, but they also brought people to that event that had come to Canada. And just that personal conversation around how they were rescued out of the dangerous situation they were in, and what it meant to them personally, was such a powerful and impactful thing to talk about. I don't think there was a dry eye in the room. And that I think is what makes this so real for us, and why we believe in this so much, is that, we're really affecting and helping people's lives, live better lives. So yeah, it's amazing what you do, both of you, I suppose all three of you, but both of the organizations. It's absolutely amazing what you do. So as we get into sort of the landing part of this conversation tonight, why don't we talk a little bit about any events or things that you have upcoming, things that you want to share with the broader community. Anthony, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So most importantly for us at PWA is an annual event called the Friends for Life Bike Rally. It's a 6-day bike ride from Toronto to Montreal. It's been going since the late 90s. It was started by 2 volunteers at PWA. So as you can see, volunteers really make the difference. And it for the past 2 years, it has not been the full ride. The first year was virtual. Last year was a sort of modified ride. This year, we are going back. We're going to hit the road. We're going to go 6 days. And here's something you need to know. If you have never ridden a bike before, we have had people who have never ridden a bike, who learned to ride a bike, who then trained and got up to being able to do 120 kilometers a day, and then were able to do a 6-day rally. And they did that all within about 4 or 5 months, because as you know, the training period in winter it's a little rough. So training starts in earnest April, I'd say. And if you want more information about it, go to bikerally.org, bikerally.org. Find out all the information you need there.
Perfect. And Anthony, if I'm not mistaken, it ends in Montreal during the start of Montreal Pride, correct?
So yes, however, this year, it turns out this year was a little bit different. They had announced Pride, so we announced our days. We leave on the 7th, we arrive on the 12th in Montreal. But after all of that, it turned out that there's going to be an International AIDS Conference in Montreal the week before. So they've moved Pride back. So in fact, sadly, we're going to miss Pride. But Montreal, as you know, if you have ever been, is the most amazing city on earth. And whether it's Pride or not, is a great place for LGBTQ people to hang out, have fun. And so I strongly encourage you to, if you want, go to Pride in Montreal, fly back, and then bike back.
And the Red Dress Ball, is that happening this year?
Yes, it is. So the Red Dress Ball is also put on by volunteers. We have 4 volunteers who've been doing this for several years now. It's an event where you just put on your finest red dress or the finest red clothes you have and go out, party, raise money. All of the money raised goes to PWA through the bike rally. This year's dates haven't been announced yet. It's most likely going to be in June. We're just sort of waiting for all this, to finally come out of all these COVID restrictions and things and get that settled down. And I think people need to feel a little more comfortable about being in, space. So
Yeah.
we're probably looking at June. So keep an eye out at reddressball.org.
Yeah.
Ooh, shoot. Okay, yes. Okay.
Perfect. And Brittany from Rainbow Railroad?
Yeah.
Always go through that.
We have lots going on. At the end of the month, if you have any followers in San Francisco, we're going to be in the city. We're co-presenting a documentary with Bibi Zahara Benet. She has a new documentary called Being Bibi.
Yeah.
And it's about her experience being like a queer refugee herself, her getting into drag, and all of that. So we'll be there. And then, of course, we're going to have a couple of Pride events in Toronto and in New York. Probably a couple on the West Coast in the US as well. So look out for that. And yeah, there's going to also be some great advocacy moments coming up in the next couple months for Canada, particularly around providing more pathways to safety for queer folks and making that process easier, and being a little bit more proactive about refugees as opposed to reactive. So look out for that. I would definitely suggest following us on like Instagram, Twitter, all those good things. We're at Rainbow Railroad across the board. And then if you want more information, you can definitely sign up for our newsletter. So we do some updates every so often. So you can go to our website. It's rainbowrailroad.org to do that.
Perfect.
And if you're in the Toronto area and you want to come out and support Toronto events, which directly supports these charities, so tomorrow afternoon I will be hosting bingo at Flash Nightclub. So it's a charity bingo. So there's a lot of great prizes to win and jackpots. And then we have a bi-monthly, well, actually every other Sunday we have a brunch. So not this Sunday, but next Sunday we have a brunch. So every other Sunday from that brunch at the Garage on Church Street.
From noon to 3 p.m.
From noon to 3 p.m. And then April 16th. Let me just double check that.
You're missing our big event. On March 19th, we have our investiture. That is a formal state event where we hand out titles to our members and visitors from other courts. Yeah. This will be at Flash as well. In the evening, the time is from 7 to 10. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 to 10.
Yeah.
On the 19th. And the date is the 16th. So it is so it's my personal event. It's called Bring On the Flowers. So we have a fascinator hat competition because before I was wearing head jewelry, I was always showing up to events with fascinators on. So it's a fascinator competition. And to spice it up, we're also doing a jock auction sponsored by Jockstrap Central. So there'll be some hot boys that you can win the jockstrap off their body.
7 hot boys.
7 hot boys. So
and men. Boys and men.
So you can come out and win a job.
And where is that?
That is at the Well on Church Street.
Yeah.
So, and you can follow us on our social media. So we're at TICOT Life on basically everything. TICOT.ca is our website. You just basically Google TICOT, which is TICOT.
There you go.
And you'll find us. We're very well SEO'd and SEM'd.
SEM'd?
Search engine marketing.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Good.
It's the new term. We don't use SEO anymore.
I just learned something. So yes, a lot of events coming up, both from our charities as well as ourselves. It's going to be an interesting and busy rest of the month and April as well. The good thing is things are opening up. Looks like masks are going away at the end of this month. Not quite sure how I feel about that, but we'll see how the comfort level is.
Yeah.
And we'll be doing most of the stuff in person. So really looking forward to seeing both you as our guests as well as the people listening tonight out and about on the streets and in the bars in Toronto.
And we will continue to do our live stream once a month. Although we are having a special live stream on March 31st, which is International Trans Day. So my ICP, which is Tanya King, is a trans individual. She will be hosting the show, and there will be some other trans guests from across the ICS on the show. So it'll be a great show to learn about their struggles and what they're going through. So tune into that one as well.
That'd be fun.
Yes.
So thank you very much for joining us here tonight. We really do appreciate, Pedro, your story. Brittany, bring the video. Really made it very personal in terms of the impact that our members and the people that donate at our shows have. So thank you very much for sharing that. Anthony, Brittany, thank you for obviously both coming and representing your organizations. We really do appreciate it. We'll have you back. This is not the only time. As long as you're willing to come back, we'll have you back for sure.
And obviously, if any representative shows up at any one of our events, we definitely want to give you mic time so that you can, because I think that it becomes more impactful when the charities themselves are there.
For sure.
And they can actually get on the mic and talk about the people.
Fantastic.
I think it makes people dig a little deeper because they know really why.
You have an amazing group of people supporting you. We are just so grateful for their support and for TICOT's support for the work that we're doing. It's just really incredible, and it's changed so many lives. So thanks very much. And I'd also like to now, because there we go. Glasses.
Reading is fundamental.
It was just shining in the lenses.
You're saying I can read your email through your glasses.
I thought you were opening the library there for a second.
Okay, so thank you very much, Brittany. Thank you very much, Pedro. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Great. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I'm sure we'll see each other out and about as in the coming weeks and months.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye.
There you go. And thank you very much, everybody, for listening tonight.
Yes. And we usually do it at the beginning, but we also want to thank all our frontline workers and healthcare workers that have been working through the pandemic, service industry, like everyone that has had to work and made sure that our lives could continue going on, even the rest of us are at home. So once again, we thank you all for tuning in and for all your donations. It's very much appreciated. Have a good night, everyone, and look forward to seeing you out at our events and supporting our charities. Bye-bye. Let's gotta hit the end broadcast button.